Hey, Hashem here with Flat Fee Landlord DC Metro. We service Northern Virginia, Washington DC, and Maryland. We provide property management service for the DC Metro area. We are a third-party property manager for individual landlords, people that just own a home and want to have it rented out while they move out because they couldn't have their home sell. Individual investors that may own one individual unit. They hire us to find a tenant for them and manage the property for them so that they can go back and relax and do whatever it is they need to do to build their investment business. That's what we do. So if you don't know about us, that's who we are. I am the owner. I am always available to answer any questions for landlords regarding managing their property, finding a tenant. And today, real quick, I just want to discuss in this video a conversation I had earlier today with a landlord that was reaching out to us about our service and switching over to us from his current property manager. And the real reason that he was reaching out to us to transfer was he wasn't happy with the results he was getting with the current manager. And the current results he was getting is, he's got a multi-unit property, but only a certain amount of those units are being rented out at a time, and he's been having some vacancy problems with units not renting out. And as an investor, that's something that you need to make sure works out for you, because obviously as an investor, it all comes down to the bottom line. If you've got vacancy and you don't have units in your property rented out, then that's obviously going to hurt your cash flow. And as an investor, that's your number one thing that you're looking out for, is to have high cash flow in your rental properties. So, he wasn't happy with the results his current property manager was giving him. I asked, hey, how long has he been doing it? What kind of feedback have you been getting from this property manager for why it hasn't been renting out? And he said, the feedback that I've been getting is there are some people interested, but the people that are interested don't qualify. They're not good renters. And, I asked, why are they even vacant in the first place? He said, well, he just had to evict the last tenant that was in there. So now it's been vacant for a while since that one got evicted. And now we're trying to find a new tenant, but we're only attracting people that have had, bad history and not good track record of being a tenant. So, I just kept asking him questions just to try to get a little bit more insight and try to help him out to see what it is that maybe his current property manager may be missing out on and how maybe we can help. A couple of things did stick out in my mind as we were talking. He said he couldn't transfer over to us right away because he was locked into a contract and he had to give at least 30 days notice to get out of that contract, because that's when that contract's coming up. So right then and there, that's one difference between us and other property management companies, is that if you need to cancel with us, you cancel right away. If you don't want to do business with us, you're not locked into a 30-day contract, a 60-day, 1 year, whatever. If he had started out with us, number one, hopefully he wasn't having the issues that he's having right now and shopping other property management companies. But number two, he could cancel at any time. So that was one thing that kind of stuck out to me in terms of the differences that we offer that others don't. The next thing was that the tenants that, like you said, the current property manager was coming across are people that have history of eviction or just don't qualify. I said, hey, sir, if you're going to give them a 30-day notice and an ultimatum basically of, hey, these units need to be rented out and the entire building needs to be rented out, or I'm switching to a different property management company, I then asked, how involved are you when they find the tenant? Do they just place them without even giving you a background, giving you any information about the background check of the tenant? Are you involved in that in any way? Or do you just basically, do they handle all that? Do they do the screening? Do they not share the screening? Do they sign the lease themselves on your behalf? And then all you do is collect the checks. And he said, yeah, all I do is collect the checks. that's all I want to do. That I'm an investor. Your job as a property manager is to do all those other things, right? And I said to him, sir, well, here's the problem that could arise when you do that. If you're only giving them 30-day ultimatum to finish renting out this property, and they have to this point only been coming across people that don't have the best track record for renting out your property, and you have no say, or you don't even approve or get any information in regards to when a tenant is placed, seeing their background information, who's to say that they're just not going to place somebody in the next few days with one of those people that don't really qualify, and then you're stuck in a lease with them, and they may end up being horrible renters, they may end up paying late all the time, or even worse than that, they may trash the property and have to be evicted, 30, 60 days from now. Who's to say that's not going to happen if you don't get that information before they place that tenant? And it was almost kind of like an aha moment for him. He's like, you know what, you're right. What if that does happen? I didn't really consider that. I just wanted the property rented, and I want the money to come in. And that brings me just to this, when you're being a landlord, whether you're an investor or somebody that owns a property yourself, and you're just, renting out one unit, a one-unit house or a condo, whatever it may be, yes, you hire a property manager to handle a lot of the situations for you, but still, at the end of the day, you need to realize it is your home, it is your property, and you also want to make sure that there is some type of background check being done on your property, okay? And if you're not aware of the type of property or what type of background check is being done on a person that's going to be residing in your investment property, then that's something that I would strongly suggest you do. Whether you work with us, which we don't place a tenant without giving any of our landlords a background check results and getting their approval before we place them. We don't do that ever, okay? We require every tenant that comes in, we get some type of approval from the owner so they know the type of renter that they're gonna get. If you're working with a property manager now that doesn't do that, I strongly suggest you ask them for it. Because like I said, at the end of the day, if you become unhappy with them and you, for whatever reason, fire that property manager, now you're stuck with that with that tenant. And if they are a bad tenant, well, you may have had some say in terms of them being in there, because if the current property manager had given you that information, you may have been able to deny them access to your property, and you wouldn't have to deal with them anymore. So, every property manager, every landlord for that matter, has a different way of screening their tenants. We ourselves, we have a perfect tenant screening process, which I go through over in a different video. It's also on our website at flatfeelandlord.com. But we are very thorough. We understand and realize that placing a tenant is the most important aspect of this process of renting out your property. It's not finding a property manager, it's not finding the property, it's finding a good tenant. And we put all of our resources and time in finding that perfect tenant, because the start of the process will dictate the rest of the process as you move forward on a month-to-month basis, and that tenant pays their rent on time, doesn't call for tedious repairs that have no impact on the structural integrity of your home, but just kind of leak away at your profits. People that pay on time, people that will treat your property well, won't cause HOA violations, people that will only reach out if really in a true emergency and are always paying on time. That's the type of tenant you want. And with us, we screen our tenants and interview past landlords. We look at their credit history. We look at indicators of their past, because we've always seen that the past is a good indicator of the future. And if they've been good in the past, then they should hopefully be good in the future as well. So those are some things I hope you as a landlord, whether you work with us or anybody for that matter, just kind of keep cognizant of, and make sure you ask those questions from your current property manager, or if you're doing it yourself, from the tenant yourself. Make sure you get that information, make an educated decision on who gets access to your property and lives in your property, because again, at the end of the day, if you're a landlord and you own that property, you own that property. It's your property. So ultimately, you will be responsible for any financial or physical damage that happens as a result of that property. You can do whatever you can to try to get it from the tenant, but again, the buck stops with you as the landlord. So if you have any questions at all regarding renting out your property in the DC metro area, please feel free to reach out to us. You can go to our website, flatfeelandlord.com, or you can also give us a call anytime.